Intercession is perhaps the most misunderstood ministry in the church today. Most Christians think it's just praying for other people, but true intercession is far more complex and costly than casual prayer for others. In simple terms, an intercessor is someone who stands between God and people, bridging the gap that sin and separation have created. In Ezekiel chapter 22 verse 30, God said, He searched for someone to stand in the gap, but found no one. Today He's still searching for intercessors, people who will sacrifice their own comfort to carry others' burdens in prayer. The question isn't whether God needs intercessors. The question is whether you're willing to answer the call. But first, you need to recognize if you've already been chosen. The first and most obvious sign of an intercessory calling is an unusual sensitivity to others' pain and problems. If you are called to be an intercessor, you don't just sympathize with people who are hurting, you actually feel their pain in your own spirit. When someone shares their struggle with you, you don't just listen politely. You experience a deep emotional and spiritual connection to their situation that stays with you long after the conversation ends. This is more than just being a caring person or having a compassionate heart. The Hebrew word racham means to have compassion, but it literally refers to the movement of the womb. It's the kind of deep maternal concern that makes you feel like you're going to give birth to a solution for someone else's problem. You feel their burden in your belly, their pain in your spirit, and their need as if it were your own desperate situation. Jesus demonstrated this level of compassion in Matthew chapter 9 verse 36, when He saw the multitudes and was moved with compassion on them, because they fainted and were scattered abroad, as sheep having no shepherd. If you find yourself losing sleep over other people's problems, if you can't enjoy your own blessings when you know others are suffering, if you feel a physical heaviness when people share their burdens with you, this is a sign that God has given you an intercessor's heart. Most people can listen to problems and move on with their day, but intercessors carry those problems until they see a breakthrough. Another clear sign of an intercessory calling is receiving sudden, unexpected burdens to pray for specific people or situations. You might be going about your normal day when suddenly someone's name comes to your mind with such intensity that you feel compelled to stop everything and pray. These aren't casual thoughts. They're urgent spiritual downloads that demand immediate attention. Sometimes these burdens come for people you barely know, or even for people you've never met. You might see a news story about a tragedy and feel an overwhelming need to pray, not just for a few minutes, but for hours or even days. You might drive past an accident and feel such a burden for the people involved that you have to pull over and intercede for strangers. The prophet Samuel experienced this when he said in 1 Samuel chapter 12 verse 23, "Moreover, as for me, God forbid that I should sin against the Lord in ceasing to pray for you." Samuel understood that failing to pray when God gave him a burden would be sin. The Hebrew word shadal for ceasing means to leave off or forsake. When God gives you a burden to intercede, ignoring it is actually disobedience. These prayer burdens often come at inconvenient times, while you're working in the middle of the night during family time, or when you have other plans. God might suddenly wake you up to pray. But true intercessors learn to respond immediately to these divine interruptions because they understand that someone's breakthrough might depend on their immediate obedience to pray. If you're called to be an intercessor, you'll notice that your prayer times often involve spiritual warfare. When you pray for others, especially for their salvation, healing, or deliverance, you'll encounter resistance that goes beyond normal distractions. This happens because intercession threatens the kingdom of darkness. When you stand in the gap for someone else, you're directly challenging the demonic forces that are holding them in bondage. In Daniel chapter 10 verse 12, the angel told Daniel, "Fear not, Daniel, from the first day that thou didst set thine heart to understand, and to chasten thyself before thy God, thy words were heard, and I am come for thy words." But the angel was delayed for 21 days because the prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me. Daniel's intercession had triggered warfare in the heavenly realm. The same thing happens when you intercede for others. Your prayers mobilize heaven, but also provoke hell. When you intercede, you can expect opposition. The enemy will try to discourage you, distract you, or make you feel like your prayers aren't working. He might even attack your health, your relationships, or your circumstances to try to get you to stop praying. If you find that spiritual attacks intensify when you pray for others, if you feel oppression or heaviness during intercessory prayer that lifts when you stop, if you experience unusual resistance when you try to intercede, these are signs that your prayers are threatening the enemy and that you're operating in your calling as an intercessor. Sign 4. You have prophetic dreams and visions. Intercessors often receive prophetic dreams and visions that give them insight into situations they need to pray about. God will show you things that are happening in people's lives, dangers they're facing, or breakthroughs that are coming so you can pray accordingly. These aren't random dreams. They're divine intelligence briefings that equip you for effective intercession. God reveals these things to you, not for you to be entertained, but so that you can address them through prayers. In Job, chapter 33, verses 14 to 16, we read, "For God speaketh once, yea, twice, yet man perceiveth it not. In a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falleth upon men, in slumberings upon the bed, then he openeth the ears of men, and sealeth their instruction," suggesting that God's dreams strengthen us for the work he's calling us to do. You might dream about specific people who need prayer, see visions of accidents before they happen, so you can intercede for protection, or receive spiritual insight into the root causes of problems people are facing. These dreams and visions aren't for your entertainment. They're marching orders for your prayer life. The prophet Joel spoke of this in Joel chapter 2, verse 28. "And it shall come to pass afterward, that I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, your old men shall dream dreams, your young men shall see visions." God gives intercessors prophetic insight because they need to know how to pray effectively. If you frequently have dreams about people you need to pray for, if you receive visions during prayer that guide your intercession, if God shows you things in the spirit realm that help you understand how to pray, this is a strong indication that you're called to be an intercessor. Sign 5. You feel compelled to fast. Fasting and intercession go hand in hand, and if you're called to be an intercessor, you'll feel a natural draw toward fasting when you're carrying heavy prayer burdens. This isn't about legalism or trying to manipulate God. It's about the recognition that some spiritual battles require more than just prayer. They require the combination of prayer and fasting. In Matthew chapter 17, verse 21, Jesus said, "Howbeit this kind goeth not out, but by prayer and fasting." Some spiritual strongholds are so entrenched that they require the increased spiritual authority that comes through fasting combined with prayer. When you're interceding for someone's salvation, healing, or deliverance, you might feel led to fast for them even when they don't know you're praying. You might skip meals, abstain from certain foods, because you sense that the breakthrough requires this level of spiritual intensity. Fasting helps to accelerate the answers to those prayers. The interesting thing about interceding for others is the fact that God sorts you out separately. What I mean is that sometimes you might be interceding for others, but God will not show you your reward immediately. He will reward you later, but always in a much larger scale. In fact, in the ranks of heaven, God rates people who intercede for others higher than those who serve, because those who intercede are always at the heart of God. It is a combination of sacrifice, selflessness, constantly dwelling in the presence of God. If you've been called to be an intercessor, rejoice because God has a big reward for you. So there you have it. Thank you for watching. If you love our videos, please feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel.